got my son and my 2 nephews around my house all the time, and all that's going on are fantasy football drafts.
A lot of people.
Everyone in the world is doing their drafts this year, and no one focuses more intently on this or knows more about it than Schefter. So you need to hear from him before you have your draft. Let's start with this. If I've got the number 1 pick in my draft this year, who am I taking?
It's not even a question in my mind. I know most people are going with Jamar Chase, and he's great. But my number 1 pick is this running back in Atlanta, Bijan Robinson. His numbers down the stretch last year were outstanding. It's tougher to find a great running back. When Michael Penix came in, his numbers got even better. I believe Bijan Robinson is the unquestioned, easy number 1 pick in any fantasy draft this year, ahead of Jamar Chase, as good as Jamar Chase is.
So that's coming in here, guys, and let me get some thoughts on these as we can, fantasy experts or to whatever degree we are. I find Atlanta a fascinating team. I don't know what to expect. If you told me they're going to disappoint, I feel like they've been disappointing the last several years. Yeah. But with Penix, if he can unlock not just Robinson, who obviously has been terrific, but Drake London and Kyle Pitts, if he ever turns into what he was projected to be, Falcons, I think, could be a sleeping giant.
Greeny, think about all the high draft picks that the Falcons have used on offensive players, from the quarterback, Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, their offensive line. They have one of the better offensive lines in the National Football League. Like, this Falcons offense should be, with all that talent, should be a top 10 offense.
But Greeny, to use your term, seeking big news, their right tackle, Caleb McGarry, is going to miss a lot of time. I'm an expert in right tackle durability issues, and that's the blind side of Michael Penix. His backup, Storm Norton, is also hurt. Michael Penix needs good protection to be effective.
That means you have to run the football more and use more screen passes, and that's where Bijan Robinson comes in as the number 1 pick.
We were talking about this around the desk yesterday, and Ryan Clark just turned to me and goes, he's going for 2 Gs this year, meaning a combination of running and receiving over 2,000 yards. So they were all on board with Bijan Robinson. Let's go to quarterback and a mid-round quarterback. Let's say some of the big names are off the board. I'm looking for a mid-round quarterback.
Everybody knows how good and valuable Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts,
Jaden Daniels,
and Joe Burrow are in fantasy. But if you get past that tier of quarterbacks and looking in the mid-tiers, the Denver Broncos quarterback, Bo Nix, came on last year, started slow, picked up speed, and Bo Nix, of course, in this offense, with Evan Ingram added in there, with R.J. Harvey added in there, with this team being another year in Sean Payton's offense, Bo Nix should be that much more experienced, that much more productive, and as a mid-round pick, obviously, Bo Nix has a chance to really shine.
Greeny, what about Baker Mayfield? I mean, Tampa Bay the last couple of years been top 5 offense. Emeka Egbuka, all-time leading receiver in the Ohio State history. I know Chris Godwin's hurt, but I think they're going to...
He's also missing his left tackle, Tristan Wirfs, right, for the first couple of years of the year.
So these are interesting questions here. Do you expect... So sometimes with these young quarterbacks, you never know. Sometimes it's a linear progression. Is Bo Nix going to become... I mean, if he is Drew Brees but bigger, meaning in that offense, but, you know, I mean, Bo Nix a big guy, obviously. He played a ton of college football. Yeah. So maybe him hitting the ground running isn't that much of a surprise. Do you like the trajectory that you expect from Nix and the Broncos this year?
I do. There's a couple of things I like about Bo Nix. Number one, he played a ton of college football. Then you have...
He made the most starts of any college quarterback in NCAA history.
Yeah, he's played a ton of college snaps. That's number one. Number two, you got Sean Payton. You got one of the best offensive minds in football as your head coach / play caller. They've added weapons around him. Usually you make your biggest jump from year 1 to year 2. I think Bo Nix is going to make a huge jump this year.
Yeah, so for those who don't speak fantasy the way you guys may, they'll be wondering, how about Patrick Mahomes? He's the best player. He's the best quarterback. I keep hearing their offense is going to be better this year. Where does he fall in all of this?
Listen, I think Patrick Mahomes is going to go scorched earth this year, and I think that'd be a great mid-round target as well. I'm not sure of his ADP on ESPN, but I would be in favor.
I drafted him in the 5th round in our draft. So
the thing, he doesn't run much. He runs in the playoffs. He's smart. He's too smart to run a lot during the regular season because he knows if he gets hurt, then the only thing that really matters is off the table. He's a sneaky good runner, but he generally doesn't do much of it in the regular season.
He doesn't. But I will say this. We saw the worst version of the skill around Patrick Mahomes last year.
Right.
They're going to be a much better team, primarily because he's going to have better protection up front. Their offensive line is going to be a lot better. Some of the guys that they had injured on the perimeter are going to be back. Patrick Mahomes is going to be, we're going to be talking about him at the end of the year as one of the best quarterbacks in fantasy, in my opinion.
What's stunning was last year they were 29th in air yards per attempt. That just shows you he was getting the ball out of his hands for lack of protection. So I think they're going to be much more explosive than they were last year.
It'll be interesting to see. Yeah.
With their new left tackle, their first-round draft pick from Ohio State, I think that's going to make a huge difference for Patrick Mahomes.
People he had not gotten
Simmons.
hurt in college, he probably would have been a top 10 pick. Okay, last one, a wide receiver. We know Jamar Chase, we know Justin Jefferson. How about a mid-round wide receiver someone should grab?
At this time last year, everybody was talking about this player as a top 20 pick. Not this year, but Marvin Harrison has a chance to be even better in his second year than he was in his first year, and he's not going to be drafted as high this year as he was last year in his rookie year. Now, I'm not sure exactly where he's going in drafts. I would say somewhere between pick 30 and 40 is my approximate guess on Marvin Harrison, and I think he's going to be able to produce up to that value for the Arizona Cardinals this year, and you for your fantasy team if you wind up drafting him.
He was underutilized last year. Make no mistake about it. He was underutilized. I think in year two, they have to understand, listen, we drafted this guy, high draft pick from last year. We drafted that guy for a reason that high because he's a bona fide number one receiver. And so I expect they got Trey McBride on that offense. The Arizona Cardinals have weapons, but they got to get that young man much more involved in that offense.
It's all going to come down to the quarterback, right? Kyler
Yes.
Murray, we see him have so many really good games early in this seasons, and we think to ourselves, is this the year that Murray finally lives up to all of the promise? And generally speaking, it has not as the seasons have gone on. What is your expectation from him and from Arizona?
Yeah, Greeny, I think they're better than people realize on the skill players. You mentioned Trey McBride, and then they have James Conner and Michael Wilson to go along with Marvin Harrison. So that's a good nucleus together. They have some continuity on their coaching staff, which they haven't had for a while. So if Kyle Murray is going to take the next step, he's set up to do it this year.
If Kyler Murray plays well, and I think Arizona has a real chance to win this division.
Schefter, as you mentioned, so much news. Let's run the hurry up. This was the first duck that fell yesterday. The Commanders get it done with Terry McLaurin.
We are late in August. We are under 2 weeks to the start of the season, and so these two sides figured out a way to bridge their vast differences and to get a deal done with Terry McLaurin. A 3-year extension, his third big contract as a wide receiver. This had hung over the franchise. They wanted to get it done, and I think the fact that the preseason is behind us and the start of the regular season is right in front of us was a leading factor to the timing of this deal and getting it done when the two sides did.
D-Wood, give me 2 words for the realistic expectations for the Commanders this year.
Super Bowl. Super Bowl. I mean, this was a team last year that was on the doorstep of the Super Bowl. And then you look at the moves that the Commanders made this offseason. They go out and they trade for Laramie Tunsil. Okay, they drafted a lineman in the first round. They go out and trade for Deebo Samuel. Like, they've added pieces to bolster this splendid offense. And so when you got the centerpiece being Jaden Daniels, anything is possible, including making a trip to the Super Bowl.
So we had a thing a couple of weeks ago here, maybe it had been last week, about there were some signals that there could be some reason to expect them to regress a little bit. They won all of these close games last year. They went for it on 4th down and got it at a ridiculously high rate. The schedule this year is a little bit unfortunate for them. They play the most teams coming off a bye of any team. So just little things that could work against them. But I feel like this signing, this deal, however it's worked out, this was the piece that they needed to make this run. I'm a believer in the Commanders. What do you expect?
Absolutely. This puts a ribbon on a great offseason, which already D would alluded to. And when we go to the other side of the ball, they added Javon Kinlaw, Von Miller, who, again, close to the end, but maybe they get 15 plays a game out of him. And when you look at this graphic, Greeny, to me what they did is they attacked their weaknesses, specifically with Laramie Tunsil and Josh Carnley. Jaden McDaniels was sacked 47 times. That was the only thing that was missing, really, from a great offense. Getting McLaurin back, again, to me, really the icing on the cake.
If Dan Graziano was here, he would say, we know the Eagles can't win this division, because he loves to point out that no one ever wins it back-to-back years. That would make, if that holds true, the Commanders the favorite. The next one is Cincinnati. I have to admit, I wasn't sure they were going to get this thing worked out with Trey Hendrickson, but they did.
Well, and essentially we are about the timing. And Cincinnati always balked at paying him into 2026. And Trey Hendrickson wanted a certain amount of guaranteed money. They found a solution to essentially placate both sides. Trey Hendrickson gets a $14 million raise for this season. You don't see that. No added years onto the deal, but lots of added money. He now can become a free agent after this year. The Bengals still can tag him, but Trey Hendrickson boosted his salary this season up to $30 million, putting his numbers more in line with the other top pass rushers. And again, there have been a lot of bent feelings, hurt feelings between these two sides. And with under 2 weeks to the opener, they put aside their differences and figured out a solution.
And Greeny, if they do tag him, based on the structure of the deal, approximately that's $34.8 million, substantially above what the collective bargaining agreement has for a franchise tag for a defensive end. So that's another win for Trey Hendrickson. Again, it's a Band-Aid, not ideal for either side because he's a free agent at the end of the year. Trey Hendrickson doesn't get the massive guarantee, but he's now at least gets a big raise. And if I'm the Bengals, I'm saving $11 million from where TJ Watt is. So to me, not ideal, but a great Band-Aid for the season.
He was the best player on what was candidly a terrible defense last year. The little bit we've seen in the preseason, for whatever that's worth, has not looked any better. Of course, he hasn't been playing in it. What do you think this Bengals team can do with this high-flying offense and a really questionable defense?
Well, I think much of it is predicated on how well some of these younger guys on the defense develop. If those guys and the new defensive coordinator Al Golden, if those guys can turn the corner, you bring in bring back Trey Hendrickson. If this defense can be average, Greeny, we're talking about the Bengals being one of these teams that's competing with the Bills, the Ravens, the Chiefs in the AFC. But they need these guys to develop and develop fast this year.
The stat that I can never get my mind around, they had a losing record last year in games in which they scored 33 points or more.
Yeah.
That's almost impossible to do. They were 3-4 in games in which they themselves scored 33 points.
Right, but if the legendary Bill Walsh was here, what he would talk about is fourth quarter pass rushers. If we score 33 points, we should win. We drafted Shamar Stewart. We got Trey Hendrickson back. They have a real chance now to close out games.
See if they can do it. And the last one, of course, is the Cowboys. That hold-in continues. They don't seem to be getting any closer to a deal. And Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott was asked about Micah Parsons yesterday, asked about Micah not being there. Remember, the Eagles game is a week from Thursday. Here's what he said.
No, I've got confidence. I've told y'all that way back when. And I'm just going off of experience, honestly. No different than mine, so I've got confidence in that. Just hoping, which I know he is, he's ready to play.
Has this whole thing been a distraction for the team as you prepare?
I wouldn't say so. As I alluded to it before, I mean, there's been a case of something similar to this the last 3 years, I believe. So people can take it however they want. I think it's kind of part of the way guys think and see things around here.
What did that sound like to you?
Didn't sound like a guy who is real thrilled. He accepts what goes on there. And what's going on there right now is this. I think there's some hope in this regard. Trey Hendrickson and the Bengals were worlds apart. And somehow, with the regular season coming close, they figured out their differences. Terry McLaurin and the Washington Commanders, millions of dollars apart, couldn't figure out a solution. And lo and behold, under 2 weeks from the opener, they figured out a solution. The fact that two sides or two different situations that were really nowhere could figure out a solution, you would think would give some hope to the Dallas Cowboys and Micah Parsons. You would think. But the one thing that I would warn here is Micah Parsons still hasn't practiced. Micah Parsons has a tight back. Micah Parsons is hurt. The Dallas Cowboys are in a situation where people say that this is going to be Jerry Jones' Waterloo. He's determined to make a point and win this particular disagreement.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that gets resolved other than the fact that McLaurin and Hendrickson were worlds apart. They got it done, and the Dallas Cowboys now are in a situation where people are waiting to see whether they can figure out a solution and get their situation.
To be clear, I mean, if those people know what Waterloo is, that was the end of Napoleon, right? He lost that battle, and that was it. It was the end of the Napoleonic Wars. So maybe this is sort of the end of the line for Jerry Jones. Look, I have had so much respect for Jerry Jones over the decades. I have covered his teams like crazy. He is a person that I hold in high regard as far as my respect, and I cannot believe for the life of me he has allowed this to turn into this, because this has gone way beyond a show. This has gone way beyond the usual soap opera that we get with the Dallas Cowboys. It genuinely has become embarrassing when you have by far the best player on your team, one with whom this should be the easiest thing in the world to get. Of all these deals, I could understand why the Commanders had some hesitancy when it came to McLaurin. I love him, but I saw it.
But he's in his 30s.
That's what I mean. And you
Trey
can see it with
Hendrickson, too.
Hendrickson in his 30s. Micah Parsons, this should be, it's
Prime of
almost,
his career.
People have compared it to in the NBA, they have like a max salary. Like you know what he's going to get. They don't even need an agent to do it. Well, I shouldn't say that in this case, because we all understand Jerry Jones doesn't want the agent to do it, but it almost should have been something they could have done without it. So you tell me, where does this go? How do you, if you're in there, how are you trying to create this situation to try and salvage it?
It's easy, Greeny. You close the door and say, hey, we're going to both give a little and we're both going to get a little. We're going to give you 2 years, $84 million. So from an average per year basis, you are the highest paid non-quarterback in the league. You're above TJ Watt. However, if you're Dallas, it's a little bit of a shorter term deal, less risk. And now if you're Micah Parsons, you get a substantial raise, much the way Trey Hendrickson did, and you get back to the table a year early. The one thing too, like going back to Adam's point, like why are we optimistic? Let's give Micah Parsons credit, Greeny. He showed up. So again, under the collective bargaining agreement, on a rookie contract, fines can be waived. So he could not have gone to California. He could have not shown up at all. So the fact that he's there every day leads me to believe that he wants to play a week from Thursday night. Get in a room, put a Band-Aid on this thing, and get to the season.
Let's be clear. There are 16 games after the one on Thursday night, so it's not all about that, but that's a pretty big game. It's the NFL's kickoff game, and they're playing the defending champs. And D-Wood, I want you to repeat what you said in our first hour for the new audience that is here about what you would think of if the Cowboys put him on the field 9 days from now.
I think it would be irresponsible for the Dallas Cowboys to play Michael Parsons at week 1. They're literally playing, 9 days? In 9 days,
yes.
They're playing the Philadelphia Eagles on a Thursday night. You have to be in football shape. The only way you are in football shape is by doing football things, by being in pads, by practicing. He hasn't done any of that. You talked about he reported. Yes, he reported, but he's not doing any of the football activities that his other teammates are doing. And so by putting him out there, if this thing somehow gets resolved in the next day or so, you put Michael Parsons out there, you run the risk of my former teammate Darrelle Revis, who had a holdout, he signed, the first game he played, he got injured. Do we really want that for Michael Parsons? This is not about one game, not about the opening game. This is about a 17-game slate that you want Michael Parsons available for.
And I'll say this, that Micah Parsons has to watch out for himself. And so he knows what he's going to be worth on the open market. I don't think he's going to be rushing himself in to go play a game unless he has a new deal. If he gets a new deal, I'm going to predict right now with confidence that tightness in his back is going to feel a lot better.
Yeah, I'll tell you this. We talk about how bad the Bengals were without Trey Hendrickson. This Cowboy defense, they're going to have a lot of issues without Micah Parsons.
Look, I mean, that was a game that you sort of figured they'd lose anyway, but then they've got the Giants, and if they're going to have a season, they're going to need him. If he's not there, I don't know what's going to happen in Dallas.